ජීවිතය. Good evening and welcome to Newsfirst Primetime News live here on TV1. I'm your anchor tonight, Shahin Jurong Party. Let's take a look at your headlines tonight.
Emergency regulations passed in Parliament without a vote. Death toll from Easter terror attacks rises to 359. Police curfew imposed from 10 tonight to 4 a.m. tomorrow. Search operations in several places across the country. 5 controlled explosions carried out. MP Vijayadasa Rajapaksa requests immediate arrest of the Defence Secretary and IGP from the President.
Now for those stories in detail. The death toll from the serial bombings across the country on Easter Sunday has risen to 359.
A string of bombings took place last Sunday targeting the St. Anthony Shrine in Kochikade, the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuwapitiya and the Zion Church in Batticaloa. The 3 luxury hotels in Colombo, Shangri-La, Cinnamon Grand and the Kingsbury were also among the targets. Suicide bomb explosions also took place at a hotel near the National Zoo in Dehiwala and inside a house in Dematagoda. Speaking to News First, police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara said that among the deceased are 39 foreign nationals, 20 of the 39 deceased have been identified and their remains have been handed over to the relatives.
Massive search operations were conducted across the island following the string of explosions on Sunday. A number of suspicious locations are still being investigated.
An explosive device was found inside a parked vehicle close to the St. Anthony Shrine in Kochikade a day after the explosion at the church. The Police Special Task Force and the Bomb Disposal Squad of the Sri Lanka Air Force performed a controlled explosion and defused the explosive safely. 5 suspected vehicles and parcels were inspected and a number of controlled explosions were also carried out. Security forces performed a controlled explosion following the discovery of a suspicious package inside a restaurant in the Thimbirigaskotua area in Katana.
I came to the restaurant with my wife to have a cup of tea. The bag was on the chair. I lifted it and it was heavy. All of us informed the police and evacuated the area.
Security forces carried out a controlled explosion following an inspection of a suspicious motorcycle parked opposite the Savoy Cinema in Vellavatta, Colombo. However, police said they did not discover any explosive device inside. Security forces carried out a controlled explosion at 1:30 this afternoon following the inspection of a motorcycle left unattended at the Gaspaha junction in Peta, Colombo. However, police said they did not discover any explosive device inside. Sri Lanka Navy personnel inspected a motorcycle left unattended close to the police headquarters. Sri Lanka Air Force personnel inspected a motorcycle left unattended opposite the Kalubovla Teaching Hospital this afternoon. A van, a motorbike and communication devices were discovered at a house during a search operation in Anguruvalla, Varakapola last night. According to police, 2 suspects at the house were arrested. It has been revealed that the impounded van and the motorbike were both included in the list of suspicious vehicles that the police were notified of. Police further said that a suspect connected to the arrested suspects was taken into custody at the Hemmatagama Police Division. A suspicious lorry parked at the premises of the Ambagamua Pradeshia Sabha in Ginigathena was inspected by the police and the Special Task Force. A number of communication and electronic devices were found inside the lorry. According to police, the lorry had been parked there for 3 days. The police added no one had claimed ownership of the vehicle yet. A suspicious motorbike parked opposite the police headquarters in Colombo was inspected by security forces this afternoon. The owner of the motorbike had later arrived, after which he was taken into police custody. Police inspected a suspicious motorbike parked under the highway bridge close to the Hunupitiya railway station in Wattala. Police temporarily halted train travel and flow of traffic along the highway. Police stated that there was no threat. A special search operation was conducted at a number of prominent locations in the Kurunegala town today. A parcel found opposite the Lakdas Madhya Mahavidyalaya in Kurunegala was inspected by police officers following a tip-off received. Some clothing items were found inside the bag and it included nothing suspicious. A small lorry parked along Wathimi Road in Kurunegala was searched by police. Police also inspected a three-wheeler parked at the parking lot of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital for a number of days. Nothing suspicious was discovered inside the vehicle.
A suspicious vehicle and a house in Kirimatithanna area in Balangoda was subjected to a search this afternoon.
According to our correspondent, several entrance passes to the parliamentary premises, 2 live bullets, a number of SIM cards and a road plan had been discovered from within the house. When inspecting the vehicle, it was evident that a false hood was fitted onto the trunk of the vehicle. A 27-year-old suspect has been arrested.
Following are the views expressed by UPFA parliamentarian Dallas Alaha in Parliament today.
The President, Prime Minister, Subject Ministers and Heads of Security are pointing fingers at each other. In June of 2015, a BBC journalist named Andrew Hosken penned a book named Empire of Fear. A separate chapter of this book states that Sri Lanka is a breeding ground. I raised a question in this regard in Parliament on the 6th of September 2016, and this is the Hansard report. The then Subject Minister Sagala Ratnayaka responded to my question. He said that the question cannot be answered in Parliament. I have information to prove this. It was in 2016. Even the Prime Minister cannot say he was not aware of this. MP Vijayadasa Rajapaksa raised concerns over this matter in Parliament and revealed all information in this regard. Anyone cannot say that they were not aware of this. As far as I know, the Security Council has discussed this matter 47 times since then. When MP Dallas Alaha raised this question in Parliament in 2016, this was the response given by the then Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development, Sagala Ratnayaka. Extract. Sir, actually, I do not want to table the answer either, since this question has a bearing on national security and public safety. I would seek your approval to refrain from replying. But if the members or any other member in this House wishes to have more information pertaining to what is in the question, I am happy to speak to them outside the House. End of extract.
Also making headlines this evening, MP Vijayadasa Rajapaksa requested the President to enforce the law against Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando and Inspector General of Police Pujit Chasundara for the alleged non-disclosure of a vital warning that could have led to the prevention of Sunday's attacks.
In a letter addressed to the President, the MP said intelligence unit received information on the attacks on the 4th of April 2019. The letter states, however, according to the statements made by the President and the Prime Minister, the said warnings had not been conveyed to them. The letter further added the deliberate non-disclosure of the said warning had resulted in casualties, and both the IGP and the Defence Secretary should be charged for committing an offence publishable under the Penal Code.
Parliamentarian Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca made a statement in Parliament today.
Today, Honourable Speaker, I am speaking not for the government but for the people. This is the time that we should think on how do we save this country and understand the reality of the situation at hand. This situation cannot be considered lightly. This is a very dangerous situation. This does not only affect the government. If this issue is not resolved, even if your government comes into power, you will have to face the same situation. I think that we should all unite, and with the blessings of everyone in this chamber, we should face this issue. I believe that we did not take the right path after we ended the previous war. Ensuring national security is not something that should be considered by politicians and leaders of the military only when there is a terrorist attack. The responsibility exists even when there are no terror attacks. We did not fulfill that responsibility. Foreign intelligence units informed us about this. It does not matter if this information was given on the 4th or the 9th. If the information came in on the 4th, action should have been taken on the 5th. If the information came in on the 9th, action should have been taken on the 10th. Yesterday I saw on TV the letter sent to the IGP by the Director of National Intelligence. As far as we know, in the National Security Council, the Director of National Security does not fall under the purview of the IGP. The Director of National Security is under the Minister of Defence and the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence. If the National Security Council convenes weekly, this letter should have been discussed. When such a letter is sent, the National Security Council should be convened immediately. They cannot just wait for a week. So I do not think that removing the IGP would solve the issue. I do not think it's fair for this to be solely pinned on him. The fact that this letter was disregarded is a massive issue. That was a massive blow to national security. Next, the opposition leader will also remember, after we ended the war, I made certain proposals. The main proposal I made was that we should develop a network of intelligence in the country now that we cannot set up roadblocks and search the people in the country like we used to. It is through the intelligence services that the security of the country can be ensured. But I do not think that this happened. Because terrorism like this cannot be created in 1 or 2 years. The LTTE took 12 years to bring down the suicide bomb to attack Ranjan Vijayaratne. So this is something that will take place at least 7 to 8 years. There might be another 300 to 400 people connected to this, other than the 4 or 5 who died. A leader recognized as Prabhakaran has been created, a leader who can motivate his followers. So this is not something that began recently. This is something that has been in operation for about 7 to 8 years. So every government that was in power is responsible for this. We will have to humbly accept this responsibility and rectify our mistakes. Next, the Security Council, the Minister of Defence and the Secretary of Defence have neglected their responsibilities. They have been unsuccessful. No matter what excuses they make, we will not accept them. Most importantly, the people will not accept them. The people suffered the blow from this. Everyone should accept their faults. Security has become a joke to us. It is only being used to suit our agendas as and when we please. It is being used for political agendas. The Prime Minister and the Deputy Minister of Defence have not been invited to the Security Council meetings for 6 months. Is this even a country? Is there a government? These are constitutional matters. Who are the members of the Security Council? On top of that, some members from your camp have crept into the Security Council. In which country do they have members of the opposition inside the Security Council?
කොයි රටේද ආරක්ෂක කවුන්සිලේ විරුද්ධ පක්ෂ මිනිස්සුයි. ඔව්. මේවා ලෝක විහිළු. ලෝකෙ හිනස්සන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ආරක්ෂක කවුන්සිලේ කතා කරේ අශ්වරේස් ගැනද? එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔට්ටු දාන එකද කරේ එතන ඉඳගෙන. ඒක මේක විශාල ප්‍රශ්නයක්.
These are jokes. We can make the world laugh. Did they speak about horse races at the Security Council meetings, or were they betting there? So this is a massive issue. On the other hand, Honorable Prime Minister, I respect you. But if you're not invited to the Security Council meetings for 6 months, why were you silent? You should have acted on it. You should have mentioned this in Parliament. None of us knew about this. If not, how can you fulfill your duties as the Prime Minister? So no one can use that as an excuse. If the Deputy Minister of Defence is not allowed to attend meetings of the Security Council, what is the point of him holding on to his position? He should resign. These are not proper excuses. These are grave mistakes, and we as a government must be responsible to the people for being silent in the face of these mistakes. But if this government is to continue, the right people should be appointed to the right positions. For example, we said an administrative official should be appointed as the Secretary of Defence. There were 1 or 2 at the time, but they got tired of it later. Thereafter, relatives, friends and classmates were appointed to these positions. All of the decisions were unsuccessful. Even after this incident, I was only invited to meet the Prime Minister 48 hours later. Until then, I was not given a time or an invitation to meet the Prime Minister. I am a field marshal. I know about these things.
මම ෆීල්ඩ් මාෂල් කෙනෙක්. මම මේවා ගැන දන්නවා. මම ෆීල්ඩ් මාෂල් උනේ ගෝල්ෆ් ෆේස් එකේ කඩල විකුණලා නෙවෙයි. ඒක හන්දා මට මේවට ආරාධනාවක් ලැබෙන්න තිබුණා.
I did not become field marshal after selling chickpeas in Golface. So I should have been invited to these meetings. Is there anyone in this government who knows about security more than I do? If there is someone like that, I will hand over my title of Field Marshal to him. So make use of us. We do not want positions and titles. If you think that we can do something for this country, if you think we have the brains to serve this country, utilize our capabilities. We are ready to work. If we want to save this country, let's save it. Or else we can stay the way we want. Appoint our own people and surround ourselves with them, having bulletproof vehicles and traveling with sirens with an ambulance at the back. If that is what you want and not the security of the general public, let's continue to be this way.
නැත්නම් අපර ඔය චූන් එකේ මෝඩ චූන් එකේ ඉන්න ඕන නම් අපේ පරිවාර පිරිස් දාගෙන වෙඩිවා දින්න නැති රට දාගෙන අපි සයිරන් ගහගෙන යනවා ඇම්බියුලන්ස් උත් පස්සෙන් එනවා ඒවා කර කර ඉන්න එක නම් අවශ්‍ය ජනතාවගේ ආරක්ෂාව නෙවෙයි නම් රට මේ විදියට යන්න දෙමු.
The bill on the emergency regulations was passed in Parliament today without a vote.
The intelligence units received this information on the 4th of April. The Security Council convened on the 7th. Was this discussed on the 7th? Our Prime Minister does not get invited to the Security Council. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet does not know of this. A letter was written by a gentleman called Cicero Mendes on the 9th. He is the director of the NIB. Honourable Speaker, when he received this information, he had a responsibility to inform the President, the Prime Minister or the Cardinal over the phone without deciding to write this letter and stop his endeavour there. Heads of the intelligence units control this. This is what we should investigate. I suggest to you that we should appoint a select committee in Parliament and find out why the intelligence units were silent on this. Why were these people silent? Is it to aid someone politically? Someone is orchestrating all of this. You and I, we are doing politics here. The security personnel cannot do politics. All of us accept that fact. The Prime Minister called on the Security Council while the President was abroad, but they did not turn up. Then the Prime Minister humbly took a trip to the Defence Ministry by his own vehicle. Then he waited half an hour inside Ruwan Vijayawardena's office expecting the officials. Are they doing politics? That is what we should investigate. We should find out about that first, regardless of who is running this country.
This is nothing but misleading. The intelligence unit officials did not know about this on the 4th. They got to know about this on the 9th.
We did not know about this incident. After the incident, the Indian embassy told us that they informed us on the 4th.
Officers of foreign embassies do not report to intelligence units, but to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or directly to the government. Therefore, we should investigate on that as well.
Now, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that he was not invited to the Security Council for 6 months. If he has taken up responsibilities, he should attend to these matters. We saw how Ranil Wickremesinghe represented the governor of the central bank following the robbery of the central bank, but he could not represent these 359 lives.
The Prime Minister who does not know anything, the Deputy Minister of Defence who knows nothing. You do not have to fear to speak up.
Royalists should stand up, not just dodge and run away.
Do not act like jokers in Parliament when there is so much of depth. This is a public document now. The Prime Minister and the Deputy Minister of Defence are unaware of this. The President was not given this letter. If this document was published on the paper, you might have seen it. That is the level to which the security in the country has fallen to. Everyone in the government should be held responsible for this.
A person who was on our national list has been arrested in connection to this. Even today, I believe that this person is not connected to this, but I believe that his children were involved in this. I don't know about that. Ibrahim Hajia. Even if he is connected to it, there is no problem. Take legal action against him. Implement the law immediately.
This can be put on the government's account. The government must be held responsible for this. This document was sent to the PSOs of the members of the government and the PSOs of the members of the opposition. There is a powerful person who can face such situations, and that person is Sarath Fonseca. I was not the one who said it. It was Mahinda Rajapaksa who said it. So why couldn't these people get together and solve this? We are thankful to Archbishop Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith. He asked Catholic devotees to remain patient and advised them against resorting to violence. This advice should be given to the 225 here in this chamber. All 225 here should be held responsible for this. Because we come here and fight. We shout, but we do not think of the people of this country. We only think about ourselves. So all 225 in Parliament should take responsibility for this incident.
Following were the views expressed about the Easter attack in Parliament today.
We must, however, confess and concede that we are collectively guilty of complacency in not taking immediate action when there were intelligence reports pointing towards the possibility of these heinous attacks. As far as the complacency issue is concerned, all of us are guilty.
We are grieving, but yet we will not allow hate and revenge to overtake us. We love each other, we forgive. This does not mean that those who are responsible for this carnage can go scot-free. The objective should not be revenge, but seeking the truth, accountability and justice. It is the duty of the state to vigorously pursue them and bring them to justice in accordance with the law.
Speaking to Bloomberg yesterday, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, said the serial bombings that destroyed hundreds of lives in Sri Lanka last Sunday will negatively impact the local tourism sector. The governor said it is too early to quantify the negative impact.
And what likely impact this event could have on the economy, especially when it comes to tourism.
Can you quantify that impact?
Well, it's too early to say, really, and it's difficult to quantify at this point. Clearly, the tourism sector, which was doing extremely well, and the bookings this year have so far been very good, and undoubtedly that will get affected. However, the tourism sector, the hospitality sector, over the 30 years, have gained a great deal of experience and expertise in how to keep people safe. So those drills and process and procedures will be kicked off again. They will be put back in place. And I'm confident that we can provide security for those people who will be visiting Sri Lanka, and that is already happening.
Sri Lanka tapped $1.5 billion from the IMF. It also tapped the bond market in a huge way. Can Sri Lanka continue to fulfill its debt obligations for the year?
Yes, we certainly can. Much of the obligations that need to be met this year were front-loaded into the first quarter of this year. The obligations that had to be met this year, including 2 sovereign bond repayments of $1 billion in January and $500 million in April, have already been paid. So we have gone to the market, we've raised the money we require, and we may tap the markets again. We'll have to see how the conditions are, clearly. But as I said, the macroeconomic fundamentals are very much intact. Sri Lanka has never missed a single payment on its external debt obligation. What I would urge people to do is to look through this event or these series of events and to look at the fundamentals of the economy and the potential of the economy.
The governor further stated that during the course of this week, the central bank will introduce certain measures which will result in a reduction in market interest rates.
At this very sad moment, in the midst of the tragedy we experienced last Sunday, we also saw many acts of heroism. People who ran to help and rescue victims in the ultimate sacrifice paid by brave policemen who acted to prevent more crimes and apprehend perpetrators. Journalists, media personnel and media organizations who reported the truth in a responsible manner. Honorable Speaker, this is the goodness of our nation. Blood is not Buddhist or Muslim or Christian or Hindu. This is not, Mr. Speaker, the time to point fingers. This is not the time to score political points, not to score debating points and manipulate the emotions of our people by misleading and confusing them. We are now dealing with an international terrorist network. Therefore, we need the support and know-how of the international community.
The darkness that engulfed the island as a result of Sunday's terror attack is yet to be lifted. We at News First continued to go in search of the stories of those who were affected dearly by this tragedy.
Easter marks the day in which Jesus was resurrected following his crucifixion. In celebration of this holy day, the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya was crowded with devotees who came to celebrate Easter. It is for this very ceremony that Dilip Kumar and his sister, who happened to be neighbors, went to church with their entire families. But destiny was such that the Easter Sunday attacks cost both Dilip and his 2 children, as well as his sister and her 3 children, their lives. The attacks, which cost the lives of these 7 people, only spared the lives of Dulip's wife and that of his sister's husband. My sister, her daughter, her second daughter and her 3rd child, the son. Then my elder brother, his daughter and his son all passed away as a result of the attack. When I went in, I could only find my younger sister's daughter. Then my elder sister came shouting, saying that our elder brother and his son were lying on the ground. When I went closer, my brother had lost a part of his face. I saw his white shirt. I realized that there was no saving him. I saw my nephew lying on him as well. A cousin of mine shouted, saying my niece is hurt and to try to save her. She was alive but had no consciousness. I fell thrice on the pile of bodies. I took her to Siduva and spoke to the doctor too. He said that she had died. My brother's daughter was also on the way there. It's okay. This sadness must be conveyed to the world. It must be shared. It is good that you came. I want to tell the world of my sorrow. Even though Dulip's wife had sustained injuries, she was there at the funeral of her husband and 2 children as she watched the final rites being conducted. While a mother and a father remained in this world, all the children had departed. A nearby house brought us the knowledge of 3 more children who were left on their own. These 3 children are the children of Sanat Rohan and his wife Indira Fernando. This happened during the vote of thanks following the service. My younger sister was not in Sri Lanka, my younger brother was outside, and my youngest brother was the only one sitting between my uncle and aunt. He only sustained minor injuries. There is still no information regarding the whereabouts of the grandmother of these kids, who was also part of the service on that fateful day. While the mortuaries in hospital continue releasing the remains of those who were killed so that they may be returned to their homes, remains that lay in the homes have also been moved to a burial ground, which will be their final resting place. This, unfortunately, has become a common sighting in Katuapitiya over the last few days.
60 suspects have been detained in connection with the serial bombings on Sunday. 30 of the 60 are currently in the custody of the CID and another 4 have been detained at the Terrorist Investigations Divisions.
Police arrested a 44-year-old Egyptian national from an international school in Madampe this afternoon in connection with last Sunday's Syria bombings. Police said the suspect did not possess any valid visa or passport and had remained in the country for more than 4 years without a valid visa. The suspect was arrested based on a tip-off. Police added the suspect's features are similar to the suicide bomber responsible for the blast in Katuapitiya on Sunday. He is due to be produced before the Chilau Magistrates Court. Meanwhile, a rice mill in Kakirava, Ganewalpola, said to be owned by Insaf Mohammed, the perpetrator responsible for the bombings at Shangri-La, Colombo, was subject to a special investigation yesterday. During the investigation process, a parcel of nails was found and the security guard of the rice mill was arrested on suspicion. The apprehended suspect was produced before the Kakirava magistrate today and will be remanded until the 6th of next month.
Police recently raided a copper factory in Vallampitiya owned by Insaf Ahmed. It is suspected that the explosives used by him was manufactured at this factory. There, 9 people, including the manager and the technical officer, were taken into police custody. According to the Daily Mail, 2 days before the blast, Insaf Ahmed had informed his wife that he would be travelling to Zambia for business matters. At the airport, he asked her to be strong. Quoting the sister of the wife, the Daily Mail further stated that he called his wife at 7:30 a.m., 1 hour before the attack, and inquired about her health. 2 people had arrived at Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo to carry out the attack. One individual is identified as a member of the terrorist organization as per posts circulated on social media, and the other a terrorist who arrived at the hotel for the attack. It has been revealed that these terrorists attempted to attack many other luxury hotels in Colombo. Investigations have revealed that after failing to set off bombs multiple times, the individual then abandoned his efforts and arrived at the inn in Dehiwala prior to detonating the bomb. Investigations have also revealed that a single person had booked rooms for the attackers to reside in at the relevant hotels, which were attacked thereafter. The individual has been identified as 32-year-old Mohammed Azam Mohammed Mubarak. Further probes are underway into the incident.
UNP parliamentarian Ashumara Singha handed over a private member's motion to the General Secretary of Parliament today, requesting for a ban to be imposed on attires such as the burqa, which covers up one's entire face.
Upon inquiry from the General Secretary of the Parliament, Dhammika Dasanayaka, he confirmed that although such a motion has been received, a decision has not been reached as to whether the motion will be entered into the parliamentary agenda. Dhammika Dasanayaka added that recommendations regarding this motion will be presented to the Speaker after confirming the legal stance of this matter. He also noted that the final decision regarding this would lie with the Speaker. According to news websites, 13 countries across the world have already banned the clothing attire named burqa.
Following are the views expressed by parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman during a media briefing.
We condemn this as a violent, anti-national, terrorist and an inhumane attack on our nation. As the government, the perpetrators should be brought before the law regardless of their status. I suggest that they should be given the capital punishment. The government holds the complete responsibility of this. They cannot get rid of that obligation. Our religion has not permitted covering the face entirely. According to our religion, the face should be seen. My wife does not dress like that. I have no expectations of making my children dress like that. Majority of Muslim community does not wear that particular attire. The Muslim Congress should give a statement on this in the future.
On Monday, Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva, speaking to CNN, said the United States and India warned Sri Lanka of imminent attacks before the Easter bombings. To further clarify these claims, CNN's Christiana Amanpour posed the question to US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena Teplitz.
This isn't over, that there are likely still plotters out there. We are doing everything we can to support the government of Sri Lanka's efforts to find all of the culprits and the collaborators in this. We may never, be free from worry or free from risk, but I don't think this particular episode is going to be finished until we know that the immediate danger has passed.
And yesterday on this program, the Sri Lankan Minister of Economic Reform told me that it was the United States and India, their intelligence, your intelligence, which had warned Sri Lanka. Can you confirm that that is the case, that your country was amongst those that warned Sri Lanka that this could happen?
Christian, we had no prior knowledge of these attacks. The Sri Lankan government has admitted lapses in their intelligence gathering and information sharing. At this point, we are really focused on the investigation, hoping it will allow us to, wrap up the cell that was responsible for this activity and, find all the connections that might exist elsewhere.
So, Ambassador, let me just get it straight. Foreign intelligence did not sort of pick anything up and alert the Sri Lankan government? I'm not suggesting you knew what, where and when, but they're telling us that they had tip-offs and that there were internal memos that were sent from police to defense and back to police. Are you telling me that's not the case?
Well, I can't speak for others. I don't know what other sources of information the government of Sri Lanka might have had. I can just tell you that we had no prior knowledge.
This is how the Prime Minister of our country responded to the questions raised by international media about the deadliest terror attacks in the country in over a decade.
That's what we are searching for. They've been out there, so they may have gone to one destination and gone in from there. This is the assistance that we are requiring. You can meet people in any part. You can meet them in London. You need not go to the Middle East. Many of them have been identified, but not all.
How many are? Was it 6 or 7 suicide bombers?
Let's have a question mark over that. I think that many of the issues among the minorities have been resolved. All reports have been to that issue. I don't think it's otherwise. Everyone wants this wiped out, and if there's any issue, they said they will raise it. We have members in the cabinet, Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims. Why is it that a country that is faced with terrorism is now accused of persecuting its minorities when you have exact, very good relationship, and the relationship was shown in the last few days?
New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said that her government was not aware of any intelligence suggesting that a devastating attack on Easter Sunday in Sri Lanka was in retaliation for deadly shootings on mosques in Christchurch.
Yeah, look, I have seen reports of those statements. We haven't received anything officially, nor have we received any intelligence reports that corroborate what has been said in Sri Lanka. Look, I absolutely understand though. Sri Lanka will be in the very early stages of its investigations, and so we're simply stepping back and allowing them to undertake those. But again, as I say, we have nothing to, at this stage, corroborate what is being said. Look, you know, New Zealand's position remains utterly consistent. We stand opposed to all forms of extreme violence, all forms of terrorism, and we've made that very clear, both publicly but also in our response and our message of condolence to Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, New Zealand has also pledged to work with France to bring together countries and tech companies in an effort to stop social media from being used to promote terrorism and violent extremism.
Our plan, however, is to make sure that we try and build unity around this issue, that we, of course, maintain the principles of a free, open and secure internet, that this isn't about freedom of expression, this is about preventing violent extremism and terrorism online.
State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena responded to questions raised by journalists on Sunday's terror attacks.
Also say, how many of these, the suicide bombers, we've obviously seen pictures of them in the Amak video that was released yesterday. What credibility do you attach to that video? And can you give a sense of, did Islamic State, they're claiming responsibility for the attack, did they train these people? Was there coordination? Who was the mastermind of this attack? Is it a foreigner?
We are conducting those investigations at the moment to see if there is a direct link to any international organizations. Right now, the IS has claimed responsibility, but I can say it's through ideology and maybe funding, but on the funding part, we are conducting investigations to find out whether there was direct funding. But what also I can say is that this group of some of the suicide bombers, most of them are well educated and come from maybe middle or upper middle class. So they are financially quite independent and quite, their families are quite stable financially. So that is a worrying factor in this, because some of them have, I think, studied in various other countries. They hold degrees, some LLMs, there's quite well-educated people.
I think you said yesterday that one of them had been to the UK. Can you confirm, is that correct?
We believe that one of the suicide bombers studied in the UK and then maybe later on did his postgraduate in Australia before coming back to settle in Sri Lanka.
Following the terror attacks in Sri Lanka, British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt made a statement to the UK Parliament.
Each person has the right to practice their faith without fear, and these awful crimes must be punished. International cooperation against terrorism requires everyone to act, and it will be the center of our priorities, and we will come back to that.
Et se tient à la disposition des autorités du Sri Lanka pour apporter tout le soutien nécessaire.
Pope Francis led thousands of people in St. Peter's Square in praying for the hundreds of people who died or were injured in bomb blasts the previous day in Sri Lanka.
Pope Francis has already condemned the bombings and offered prayers on the 21st of April after celebrating Easter morning Mass. The Pope told the crowd gathered in St. Peter's Square for the Regina Coeli prayer, saying, quote, "I want to again express my spiritual and paternal closeness to the people of Sri Lanka," unquote. He said, I quote, "I pray for the numerous victims and injured, and I ask everyone not to hesitate to offer this dear nation all the necessary help. I also hope that everyone will condemn these terrorist attacks, inhuman acts that are never justifiable," unquote.
Di non esitare a offrire questa cara nazione.
Of International Islamic Countries Association of Ambassadors met with the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, and expressed their condolences over Sunday's bombings.
I'm very happy and thankful to Their Excellencies, the ambassadors of the Islamic countries, for having come here to express their solidarity with us, and also to assure us that all what has happened is not something political or religious. It is something that has been probably a result of some misguided people, and maybe there are other forces behind those misguided people, but they are not no connection to Islam. We also assured the ambassadors that we appreciate the Islamic community in Sri Lanka and we will help them. This kind of incident should not in any way harm the harmony and peace that exists between us Christians, Buddhists, Hindus and Muslims together. We have to build up Sri Lanka which is multi-religious and united.
We came here to express our deepest sympathy and condolences to His Eminence on behalf of the OEC countries. The prime victims of this terror attacks was the Christian community of Sri Lanka. We discussed with His Eminence the importance of the communal harmony and the coexistence of religions and cultures.
On behalf of the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan, we condemn all these barbaric and tragic acts. His Eminence has said the terrorism has no religion and no nationality. We condemn all such acts in the strongest words.
Afterwards, the Archbishop expressed these views in a press conference held in Colombo.
Are you also not worried that this incident could drive a rift between the two communities?
That's a natural result that can happen. But the Muslim community has come to see me already at our Interreligious Council meeting, Congress of Religions. The Muslim leaders came and they expressed their condemnation of what happened, and they said we have nothing to do with it. Similarly, later, all the Muslim MPs and ministers came to see me, and they also said, offered their condolences and said that we have nothing to do with it. The Muslim community is completely innocent of whatever happened. These are the people who are no more Muslims, and so on. Then this morning we had the Islamic Countries Association of Ambassadors. They were here, they also told me the same thing. So I don't think the Muslim community had anything to do with this.
Former General Secretary of the United National Party, Tissa Attanayake, was released from the case filed against him for preparing false documents. He was released from the case when it was taken up before the Colombo High Court earlier today.
Tissa Attanayake said that he had decided to tender his apology to both the President and the Prime Minister over presenting a forged document to media during the last presidential election. He also added that he would not place his trust on such documents in the future. Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Apiris, who appeared on behalf of the Attorney General, said that if the defendant apologizes from the aggrieved party, the AG does not hope to continue the case. The Deputy Solicitor General said that politicians should make statements responsibly and added that if this is not done, it could affect the country adversely. The Colombo High Court released Tissa Attanayake from the 3 charges filed against him.
I have a choice to make. First, my country. Secondly, politics. It's not that I have not been invited by the UNP, but no matter who invites me, this is the time to think about these and make a decision.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has arrived in the far east of Russia for a summit with President Vladimir Putin.
Kim arrived by train in the Pacific coast city of Vladivostok for his first talks with the Russian president, which are expected to start tomorrow. He was welcomed by officials with a traditional offering of bread and salt. Russia says they will discuss the Korean Peninsula's nuclear problem, but Kim is also said to be seeking support after talks with the US failed.
And that is a wrap of Primetime News. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Shanji Rampati. Good night and take care.